Welcome to the Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, GCP, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
Ryan,
and Peter.
Episode 168, recorded for the week of June 1st, 2022. The Cloud Pod celebrates GCP Madrid region with Sangria. Good evening, Jonathan and Ryan. How you doing?
Good week.
Yeah. Hello.
Now I'm a man of leisure. I can take my time.
Yeah, I mean you're not as busy these days. Why aren't you doing the show notes? Why do I have to do them?
I still wouldn't get it done in the time I have available. That's the thing.
I barely get them done in the time I have available, so I fully understand that sentiment. Well, it's another fantastic busy week here in the cloud once again. With Broadcom apparently deciding to buy VMware for $61 billion. Broadcom is apparently interested in buying this product. This will make it one of the third largest technology acquisitions in history, just shy of Dell's $67 billion acquisition of EMC and Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of Blizzard. Apparently, Broadcom isn't afraid of big acquisitions, having purchased Symantec's enterprise unit previously and CA several years ago. While Broadcom is mostly known for its chips, by adding VMware, it'll become the leading infrastructure technology company, per their press release, not per the podcast. And there's a quote here from Broadcom president and CEO. Building upon our proven track record of successful M&A, this transaction combines our leading semiconductor and infrastructure software businesses with an iconic pioneer and innovator in enterprise software as we reimagine what we can deliver to customers as a leading infrastructure technology company. And apparently they... some of the analysts said this is because CEO Huck Tan is worried about the chip boom not lasting forever, although he's probably got several years of chip boom at this point, and wants to make sure that he can still achieve the high growth rates over time that he feels are important to Broadcom's future success.
Yeah, this is an interesting sort of reverse on the large cloud providers getting into the silicon business, which makes sense to me that they want to control their supply chain and optimize. I mean, if it is just straight the inverse, is Broadcom going to start becoming like a cloud provider? That's interesting. Wouldn't suspect that.
I mean, I just don't know what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what their real motivation is, right? Well, I guess do VMware need Broadcom for their silicon? Do Broadcom need VMware for some technology? It's hard to see where the real overlap is between them. I do know that Broadcom was trying to get into software-defined networking, and they lost the deal to buy Cumulus to NVIDIA, and so I think they're hurting a little bit there. So maybe there's some software-defined networking tech that they want from VMware,
or they just really want to diversify their portfolio. I think it really comes down to those two answers, right? One is we make chips and we can virtualize chips with VMware for the data center solutions that we make, and then beyond that, it's a really robust enterprise. Has pretty good annual revenue still. There's allegedly about 600 core customers who are still pretty heavily embedded in VMware and expect to be for a long time. And with some of their investments in Tanzu and some of the other things, they could potentially still be compelling for enterprises in the future. So I see some of the value here. I mean, they also own Rally Software, which is a Jira competitor. They own Clarity. They own the Symantec enterprise assets we talked about, and they own Arcot. All those things can be rebranded under the VMware brand pretty easily, and then all of a sudden you've now made the VMware brand more fully functioned. You get into the DevOps space with the Rally stuff. You can get into a bunch of other things and really make an interesting play for the DevOps operational side of cloud, combined with Tanzu and their multi-cloud connectivity and cloud management software. It could be interesting for Broadcom. It's definitely a way to diversify the portfolio more so than anything else.
Interesting they're keeping the VMware name, though. They're rebranding themselves instead of coming up with a new name or moving everything under the Broadcom umbrella.
Yeah, I don't know. I assume they keep the VMware brand. Is more valuable to me than the Broadcom brand completely. All right, well, let's talk about AWS. Amazon EC2 M6ID and C6ID are now available, which is giving you access to the 7.6 terabyte local NVMe storage, allowing you to still use the powerful Xeon scalable Ice Lake processors with 30.5 gigahertz all-core turbo frequencies and that new NVMe storage.
I tried to look up the price earlier, but ec2instances.info was not updated with the new API. And so thank you very much, Vantage. We really appreciate that. And if I had to do math, I wasn't going to do it. That's how I felt about it at the time.
Yeah. Couldn't be bothered. I got it. Yeah, I mean, I guess you need all that disk space because you're logging every transaction that's being processed through the processor, right? So
yes, that's
gotta
right.
be high speed.
If you're going to audit that level, you need to know every detail that you can possibly do yourselves. And now Amazon EBS now supports elastic volumes and fast snapshot restores for IO2 Block Express. You can use the elastic volumes to dynamically increase the capacity and tune the performance of your IO2 Block Express volumes with no downtime or performance impact in the same manner as the other EBS volumes. Additionally, you can now create a fully initialized IO2 Block Express volume from a fast snapshot restore enabled snapshot. Do you guys use this Block Express volume type at all?
No. It's one of those things I barely need to use provisioned IOPS the rest of the time. So to have 4 times the IOPS of provisioned IOPS is outside my use case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I usually am doing whatever I can to avoid this.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I assume this is a HANA use case or some other really legacy technology that needs just massive amounts of IO. Because even in PIOPS, most of the time when you actually look at your PIOPS usage, you don't really need PIOPS either. And you could actually get around it by provisioning more storage and getting more PIOPS natively with the standard storage class. But I haven't used this yet either, and I sort of like to, just I'm curious about it, but I don't want to pay for it.
Right.
Well, if you can afford SQL Server or HANA, then you can afford the expensive disks.
And I'm sure there's a lot of over provisioning and anti-cloud pattern behaviors going on here that require this kind of thing. And I do find the fast snapshot restore is a funny feature, just because it feels like one of those born in an emergency type things. Like, oh no.
Yeah. Do you have backups? Yes. How long does it take to restore them? 16 hours.
Yeah. Crap.
Yeah. Well, it's not even that it restores them; it's that they don't perform at the same level when they get restored. Right. That's the whole point of the fast initialization, is that they perform better at creation.
Yeah, because the snapshots are otherwise kind of lazy loaded into the volume as you access those blocks. And so, I mean, if an application is particularly latency sensitive and you're trying to start it going, then yeah, you definitely need to have that whole volume available up front.
That was it for AWS. I felt was worthy of chatting about. So a light week for AWS.
Yeah, for sure.
The GCP had a lot of puff pieces this week. We'll talk about one of them here, which I thought was just sort of humorous, which was around why IT leaders choose Google Cloud certification for their teams. And Google apparently alleges that the benefits of getting certified are speeding up the technology implementation of your software, improving the client satisfaction and success. I don't know what client they're talking about. Motivate your team and retain your talent, and finish your products ahead of schedule. I can tell you, every cloud project I've ever done has not completed ahead of schedule because by getting certified. that wasn't the solution to getting ahead of schedule. Trust me.
No. I've adopted cloud technologies in order to get ahead of schedule, but usually that's in an emergency and I'm already behind schedule anyway. But yeah, the training, or the certification, I don't think so.
Yeah, nice try, Google. Nice try.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, please get trained in our stuff so that you don't ask our support people crazy questions, or please learn our product so that you don't go on Twitter and tweet about how bad something is just because you don't know how to use it.
But it's funny because think about these things that they're advertising. Like, who are they advertising to? This is clearly executive leadership. It's not targeted towards people on the ground that are going to actually take the training or get certified or do anything. This is not a fan of this type of release at all.
It's like an SEO thing, an SEO piece. Ignore the article completely. The important bit is why IT leaders choose Google Cloud. Never mind certification for their teams. It's all about which cloud people choose.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'd love to start projects on schedule, let alone finish them on schedule.
Yeah, I'll let you know when that happens for the first time. I can't do it either.
Yeah, it's a struggle. The struggle is real. That's all I know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Google Cloud Spanner announced at the Data Summit earlier that they had announced Google Spanner change streams, and Google's now back to tell us they're now generally available. The change streams, Spanner users are now able to track and stream out changes of inserts, updates, and deletes from their Cloud Spanner database in near real time to things like BigQuery. Change streams can provide a wide range of options to integrate change data with Google Cloud services, including many use cases like analytics, event triggering, and compliance.
Cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a cool feature if you need it, especially the event triggering. Compliance is a neat thing. I hadn't really thought about that use case, but I can see how that would be useful there if you did it the right way. But,
you could have it send an email to somebody every time you access a particular person's record or a particular piece of data or update a particular piece of data or something. So, yeah.
Yeah. If you need it, it's good to have.
Since compliance teams are driven by email, it has to be by email, right?
Oh, fair point. It does have to be
of
email.
Course.
Yeah.
Homing pigeon.
You can now accelerate your high-performance computing journey with the new Google Cloud HPC Toolkit. This is the toolkit to help you understand all the amazing jargon like Slurm, Deos, SMT, Lustre, SPAC, and Omnia. Check out the toolkit if HPC is a thing you need to do, and the rest of the listeners can go on to our next story, which I will do as well, which is that the DORA report is launching for 2022 because everything about DevOps is great, and so they do try to survey as many people as they can, including you who listen to the show. Even if you don't think you have anything to add, you do have something to add to the DORA report. And so do go out and fill that survey out. This year, they will be focusing on a topic that has been top of mind for many of us, and that is security. They'll be asking if you follow practices like testing for security, integrating security review into every phase of your delivery pipeline, security review processes in general, building pre-approved code and reuse, and inviting InfoSec early and often.
Go through the survey and answer the questions now.
Yeah, we have a link in the show notes to go fill out the survey. I am eager to find out some of the answers to these questions because I've used the DORA report to great effect in many organizations in the past, talking about why we're doing this investment in DevOps, why we're trying to get cloud native, and high performing teams that are highly successful can do this stuff multiple times a day with tremendous success. And so it's definitely going to be good to be able to continue to drive that outcome for for your business. And so we're looking forward to seeing what that looks like.
Yeah, no, it's super helpful just to see, engage where you are with the rest of the industry, and then get ideas like for some of these things. Like, it can be inspirational. I think especially in the last few years, as this has sort of picked up sort of steam, or at least got a wider sort of breadth, it seems a bit more realistic, which I think is cool. Like, in the early days, the DevOps survey, everything was rosy. Of course we do all the new modern stuff every time, but more and more, I think as people take this, it's a more realistic view on the industry, how fast you're delivering software, what kind of features do you have. So this is great.
You can now eliminate hotspots in Cloud Bigtable. Google recently improved the observability of Bigtable by allowing customers to monitor and observe hot tablets. With this real-time hot tablets data through the Cloud Bigtable admin API and Google G Cloud command line tool. The blog post goes on to highlight how the hot tablet observability can be used in real-world use cases to help customers understand better design choices based on their access patterns and provide insights into performance-related problems. And having used similar tools in SQL Server and others, these are super fun and really good way to burn a good afternoon of free time to go learn how your data that you think is sharded really well is really not. And so these are super fun to go enjoy and learn all about hot tablets and hotspots in your heat maps.
What's the adage? Like, no good plan survives first contact with the enemy. I feel like that's no data structure plan survives first release or general availability, something like that. Yeah, it's always used slightly different than what was expected. It's hard to get right.
Yeah, especially with a tool like Spanner, which is, when it appears on the market, it's relatively unknown. You don't understand the performance gotchas. I guess there's general database best practices and things, but we don't know what Spanner's like under the hood. So it takes time to learn how to use these tools. Documentation is one thing, but experience comes much later.
And workloads change over time. Like you start adding features, it changes the data lookups. You just increase your usage just by scaling, adoption.
Yeah,
these tools are fun.
And then networking, of course, is the foundation of your cloud deployment and business process. Proactively maintaining your network health is mission critical to your cloud journey. The cloud is powerful and dynamic, but can sometimes feel complex as you often encounter network issues from suboptimal or error-prone configurations. And so Google has built the Network Intelligence Center module Network Analyzer, which will help you prevent manual time-intensive efforts. And with the Network Analyzer, customers can transform reactive workflows into proactive processes and reduce network and service downtime. The Network Analyzer offers an out-of-the-box suite of always-on analyzers that continuously monitor GCE and GKA networking configurations and tell you lovely things like why you have connectivity issues to Google services like Cloud SQL, or how you misconfigured your load balancer health check, or how your invalid next hop of a route is impacting your deliverable. Dynamic routes shadowed by subnet or static routes, or GKA networking misconfigurations like connectivity between the node, or the node can't connect to the control plane.
Yeah, these tools are super useful. I like that this is always on, which is very different from the Amazon offering. That's very similar. The fact that you can use it sort of for that instant developer feedback of like you removed a routing rule and nothing can talk to each other, anything, anymore. Like that's important. Those types of things. Sometimes they go unnoticed until, the customer reports them later. So that's never what you want. So I like these things being able to troubleshoot and provide information in a very complex ecosystem. I do always find that it's just not quite what I want. And it might just be that it's because I do have a foundational layer of networking and understanding of like how things are, so like I can see this being used to try to troubleshoot maybe a connectivity to another cloud or, into a data center and then suffering there. But, in general, awesome.
Is this free?
It is free, yes.
Oh, always on, as in always on and always free to use. That is nice.
Yeah. Now just imagine all those developers who you tried to explain to them network routing and how difficult that is for you on a daily basis. And now think, hey, I have this tool that'll tell them why thing A will talk to thing B, which is really all they want to know at the end of the day. They don't care about the routing or any of that other stuff. So at least now when they come to you and be like, hey, the Google thing told me the routes are bad because they're shadowed by the subnet. I don't know what that means, but fix it. And then at least you don't have to now ask a bunch of dumb questions. So I mean, like there's pluses and minuses to this world.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way, the network is, it's important. And yes, it causes lots of problems, especially when you're working with hybrid networks. But on the other hand, it's the last thing I really want to have to think about when I use a cloud service. Like I want to deploy managed services, ensure I get an endpoint. I don't really care where the network is or what the IP address is, as long as the connectivity is there. I think that the more we don't even need to care about these things, the better.
Yeah. Well, I think more and more you get into IPv6, the more and more that reality comes to be.
Yeah. No more running out of IPs in the subnet.
Well, and it's so vast that I think it exceeds sort of the ability for humans to simply comprehend, right? Like without tools and technology as assists. Like you can sit down and do it, but no one's gonna. And so like I think that's actually an advantage, right? It'll force us to stop caring about what number this is. It'll force us to stop identifying subnets and their routing or firewall rules based on those subnets, by that number, because that's still very common practice. Take the third octet. I know that's developer subnet, like that kind of thing. You get into IPv6, like maybe, there's patterns that will develop that do the same thing because, that's what people do. But I'm hoping that it becomes a little bit more abstracted. I know I need the forcing function.
Confidential computing is now coming to the N2D and C2D virtual machine family on Google. At Google Cloud, they are constantly striving to deliver the performance and features you need. So in November, they announced the N2D, and in February, they announced the C2D machines, all based on the AMD EPYC 3rd generation chips. Now you can run your confidential computing workloads on these new instance types. By default, Google Cloud keeps all data encrypted in transit between customers and their data centers and at rest. They believe the future of computing will increasingly shift to private encrypted services where users can be confident that their data is not being exposed to cloud providers or their own insiders. And confidential computing makes that possible by keeping data encrypted in memory and elsewhere outside the CPU while it is being processed, all without needing any code changes to your application.
I don't really have much, of substance to say on this one other than this is probably, out of all the cloud providers, this service is the most aptly named, confidential computing. But for some reason, despite it being, versus Enclave or I forget the other one, for some reason I want more out of it. I don't know. I want confidential computing to be like some sort of like crazy next gen Tor network or something. I don't know. Like, it's This is more encryption and isolation.
Encryption in memory doesn't excite you? Yeah.
Well, I think the important thing about the computational computing with the EPIC chips, though, is because of the way AMD made improvements to virtualization, and that you can't get the key out. I mean, there's no way that another client can get the key. Trademark. Fingers crossed. Let's hope that there's no vulnerabilities there or anything. But the idea is that when you spin up a new VM on the hypervisor, that the CPU generates the key, and that's the key that's used, and the key doesn't come out. It's not removable. It's only used for memory access for that one particular VM. So technically, even if you had access to the hardware, to the data center, you couldn't copy out the contents of that RAM unencrypted, which opens up a whole bunch of opportunities for sensitive data, especially military applications. I would think that's where the money is, right?
I'm sure.
I think it'll be one of those things that you start seeing get added to CSA and things that start getting required by customers saying, are you using confidential computing for your assets, especially if you want to be in multi-tenant type environments versus using dedicated tenancy. I think there's going to be opportunities where this is going to become something more common. I don't think we're there yet. We're probably multiple years away from that being a reality, but we will see.
I mean, hopefully things like this and patterns like this do away with like gov clouds and isolation there, right? And it only benefits the cloud providers really, and their customers, because then they'll have access to more services. Maybe they'll have the choice, maybe not, of using those services certifications.
I think this confidential computing mitigates one of the most difficult vulnerabilities, which is the row hammer attack on RAM from another VM on the same host.
Yep.
So great, you can read the contents out, you can reset the contents, you can damage it, but you can't get out the unencrypted.
It's just
data.
Junk, yeah.
Well, in 2020, during the height of pandemic, and all of us have forgotten, Google announced the new region coming to Spain, and now 2 years later, they are excited to tell you that the Madrid region is officially open. Designed to meet the needs of Spanish businesses, the new Madrid region, Europe Southwest 1, provides low latency, high availability cloud services with high international security and data protection standards, all on the cleanest cloud in the industry. Mid-region joins their network of 33 regions, which I really like Barcelona. I have not been to Madrid, but I don't mind going for the podcast to go check that out and let you guys know what I find out.
Yeah, no, I think we need to field trip it. I think that's the only way. I've been to Madrid. It's a lovely town. I would love to go again.
Yeah. See, what they didn't mention in the press release, though, is that all the servers shut down between 11 and 2 for their siesta.
That should have been the show title. Cloud Pod on Madrid Siesta.
I do like the little jab in there of the cleanest cloud in the industry. I think that's a good thing that we're starting to see that, and I think Google should tout it. I think they've really invested there, which is cool.
I mean, is it true? Like, is that their own opinion, or is that an actual true statement, by a third party? Like,
hey man, they have a dashboard that says it's very clean. The dashboard isn't going to lie.
Yeah, I know.
What's it mean by clean exactly?
Sure. Okay. Let me introduce you to a little company called Volkswagen. Who, learned how to make their computer tell you anything it wanted to.
It also tested fine, yeah.
Yeah, tested out just fine.
Hey everyone, Jonathan here. I just wanted to take a minute to thank the cloud consulting gurus at Foghorn for helping make the Cloud Pod possible. These folks truly get it. Cloud consulting experts since 2008, they are premier tier partners with AWS, Google Cloud Platform Silver, and Microsoft Azure partners. From multi-cloud to containers to moving full production workloads to the cloud under the tightest compliance, Foghorn's team of full-stack cloud engineers have been there, done that, gotten the t-shirt, and are ready to share their experience with you. If you're in the market for some talent to supplement your team, visit www.fogops.io/thecloudpod. www.fogops.io/thecloudpod. Foghorn, the promise of cloud delivered.
All right, and then the last announcement for GCP this week, introducing the granular instance sizing for Cloud Spanner. Now run your production workloads for as low as $40 a month. Cloud Spanner general availability for granular instance sizes will bring the cost of Spanner instance to as low as $40 a month on a commitment of 3 years, or $65 a month on demand. Basically, granular instances allows you to use processing units to allocate compute capacity Cloud Spanner. So a node equals basically 1,000 processing units, and now you can increment them in quantities of 100. So you can have 100 processing units versus the 1,000, which will get you a much lower cost. And if you're using this in a regional availability capability, you still get that 99.99% availability, or in a multi-region, you're getting 99.999%. Now, of course, that's $40 a month per node. So to keep that in mind, on those 100 processing units, or every node that you want to have 100 processing units will cost you at least $40. But still, 1,000 was a bit expensive and was a blocker for companies trying to just experiment with Spanner, because it had a big cut price tag to it, even though it has amazing benefits that you can take advantage of in the Google Cloud. Its cost was prohibitive. So nice to see this finally available to you.
Yeah, super useful for people, startups or early projects work, where you don't want to spend $400, $500 a month on something just to test it out.
Yeah. Or even as you wait for adoption, right? Because things take time, and I know of anecdotally, friends who have passed on using Spanner for exactly this purpose, just because it's like, well, yes, eventually you can you'll get all the benefits of that giant scale and the global distribution and all that, but right, as the start of the project, it tanks it. So.
Well, moving to Azure, Azure got a little meta this week, as Meta selected them as their strategic cloud provider to advance AI innovation and deepen PyTorch collaboration. Microsoft, of course, is committed to the advancement of AI to enable every person and organization to achieve more, and they want Meta to achieve even more than they've already achieved of world domination and ruining our society. Over the last few months, they have talked about advancements in their Azure infrastructure, Azure Cognitive Services, and Azure Machine Learning to make Azure better at supporting the AI needs of all its customers. And with their collaboration with Meta, they have selected them as their preferred strategic cloud provider to help accelerate AI research and development. As part of their relationship, Meta will expand its Azure supercomputing power to accelerate AI research and development for the Meta AI group. And Meta will utilize a dedicated Azure cluster of 5,400 GPUs using the latest virtual machine series, the NDM A100 V4 series, for the sum of the large-scale AI research they're doing. In addition to the cloud relationship with Meta, and Microsoft will collaborate to scale PyTorch adoption on Azure and accelerate developers' journey from experimentation to production, all leveraging PyTorch.
How weird, because Meta aren't big cloud users. They have their own data centers at their scale. It doesn't make any sense. They run their own cloud, right?
All I've read on this is that they don't want to support their own data science teams, which I feel that very strongly. Like it's a whole lot of capacity that you need in these spiky little increments, and so yeah.
I kind of wonder if
I assumed it was because they couldn't.
We got to say the same thing, right? Azure outbid them for the NVIDIA GPUs, and Meta left with nothing, so they had no choice but to partner with somebody.
Yeah.
I was just saying that even no matter how big you are, you can't outbuy the Azure, AWS, and GCP spend on those GPUs. So that's why Meta had to go this way instead.
Yep. That's pretty funny.
All this lightning round material, we're wasting it on the show.
I know. That's
right. Apparently Azure also says that 5G is not an upgrade. It's a new paradigm. No, I personally am over this language. I'm over 5G taking over the world, and I do think we should talk about that part of this. So the rest of this article is kind of boring and bullshit, but 5G taking over the world. So Azure in particular says that 5G unlocks three key use cases. One is MMTC, or massive machine type communication, which is really IoT for smart cities and connected vehicles. The next is URLLC, or ultra reliable low latency communication, to help ensure safety and minimize risk in examples such as image assisted quality assurance or smart highways. And the last one is EMBB, or enhanced mobile broadband, which delivers a faster and better user experience via high data rates to optimize video streaming, VR, AR performance. Now, those are the three things they say. The first one, I don't think it needed 5G.
Nope.
The second one, there's going to be no smart highways probably for decades, because have you ever seen the government build a highway? It takes forever. And then enhanced mobile broadband, like, yes, I sometimes notice my phone goes into 5G ultra wide mode, and do I notice that it's noticeably faster and better? No, I do not, and I do not care. So ultimately, I'm not sure this whole 5G thing is turning out as well as people think it is, and this huge paradigm shift. And so since Azure said it, even though it's not just their fault, we're going to talk about it. What do you guys think?
I think the 5G adoption isn't anywhere where it needs to be to deliver these features. I mean, we're using 5G bands, we have 5G technology, but what has not been deployed in very many cities is the infrastructure I mean, 5G is intended to be much higher, much lower latency, and much higher throughput because there are orders of magnitude more receivers throughout cities. I mean, literally, we're talking about in a San Francisco or New York, one every eighth of a mile or something, or even more than that.
I think it's less. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
with buildings interference. Yeah.
Yeah, to get those
50
features, you need these towers or transceivers all over the place, and we just don't have that. The technology came at the wrong time. COVID came. People aren't going outside anymore. There's pushback against the technology in general because people think it's going to rot their brains or give them tumors or something. I mean, low power is enabled because you don't need to broadcast to a tower that's 5 miles away anymore. It's 30 meters away. High throughput's enabled because now you're not sharing the same cell with 200 other people. You're only sharing it with 50 people. So these are all nice to haves, and maybe it exists in some places, but yeah, it's not a reality yet.
I mean, two things. Like the minute anyone uses the word paradigm in seriousness in a sentence, I envision basically that the stereotype, visionary in the Hollywood movies of like, in the new world, everything will be amazing. We'll be able to unlock our phones by blinking twice. We'll be able to do, like all the things. And so I feel like this is that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what the motivation behind it is. Is like, these aren't new ideas. It's not really communicate. Like, I know that if, there's more ubiquitous network and it's everywhere and more reliable, then we can make more things talk to each other. Great. So what are they trying to do? Are they trying to sell us on it? Are they trying to change like the way we develop? Because we're just going to waste our time developing stuff that requires some of these things. And then the infrastructure is not going to be there to support it. So a little strange.
So what exactly?
I mean, Microsoft's trying to sell you Azure Arc and all kinds of other technology that'll help you leverage 5G more effectively, which is, for Microsoft's perspective, it's how they sell more Azure services. So I get their side of it, but I think again, like we're definitely in the trough of disillusionment on 5G. I think there's a lot of hype. There was, it causes coronavirus, which was BS, and then we were supposed to get chips that were supposed to make our 5G connectivity better. That didn't happen either. I mean, like, so 5G sort of had this. It's been tarnished by society for dumb things, and then the technology seems like it's not delivering in the way this magical paradigm, as you pointed out, is just kind of BS. So yeah, I mean, maybe this is just that part of the evolution where we're in this rut where people are still trying to figure out how to use it effectively, and something magical will come in the future. Maybe it'll power the metaverse at some point. Maybe it'll do VR. Maybe it'll do AR. I don't know, but I definitely don't feel like it hasn't changed my day-to-day life in any way other than more conspiracy theories.
I think it just goes back to like you don't need that for VR and AR performance, right? You don't really need that for massive machine-to-machine communication, right? Like it's actually causing a huge disruption as 3G is getting retired because of all these IoT things that no longer are supported. And so it's like I don't really know if it's required, but that's definitely how they're selling it. So it's weird. My phone doesn't work better. My new fancy 5G phone just doesn't work better. It's supposed to, but it doesn't.
Battery lasts less. Those new cell phone modems kill your battery more.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, I replace my phone every 6 years, so you couldn't actually decrease the performance of the battery any further.
Yeah, that wind-up phone you used to have was awesome.
I miss the flip one he had. The flip one was good too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad you got rid of cups and string.
I had that hip chat longer than it was cool. That's for sure.
Nice. And then our last story for Azure is the Switzerland North availability zones are now live. If you were in Switzerland before, you only had the luxury of one AZ, which is sad for DR for high availability needs. But now you have 3 availability zones in Switzerland available to you on Azure. So you're welcome.
Yeah. 2 extra places to hide your money.
Hide your Bitcoin in Switzerland? Is that a thing? Can I do that? Yeah, sure. Okay.
How do you choose which region if you're trying to stay neutral?
Oof.
I don't know.
Oh, it's not the lightning round yet. It's the the lightning round. Got it.
Yeah.
Damn.
All right. Well, let's move on to the lightning round. That nice segue. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. Peter's not here once again this week, so we will do this roundtable style again. I put myself first for some reason, but here we are. Amazon Lightsail containers now support deploying images from Amazon ECR private repositories. What, Amazon? You couldn't just slap Lightsail container registry on top of that and like you did everything else and make it look like it's part of a unified strategy? No. Yes, make it work with ECR private repositories. Thanks for that. Appreciate it.
I just read this as Amazon figures out how to pass a username and password to the Docker API. AWS Launch Wizard now supports SQL Server deployments using Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP.
For all your SQL Server DBAs who love those PyOps, you can now burn money even faster with NetApp ONTAP with your SQL Server Launch Wizard. Thank you for that.
Oh, that could be the most expensive single click you ever make.
Mm-hmm. But a wizard did it.
Ooh. And it's got default wizard security group as your security group too.
Of course it does.
Yeah, as long as it names the SQL servers Launch Wizard 1, Launch Wizard 2, will be awesome. We'll be set.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. What if it was cool and it was like Gandalf? Like if it actually named it after wizards. Then I'd be excited. But no.
Amazon Elasticache for Memcached now supports encryption of data in transit.
Wait, what?
Strike this up with the thought this already existed category. I thought we would have fixed this. I probably knew it didn't exist at launch time, but Memcached on Elasticache has been out for 10 years now. So thanks for this one. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I guess better late than never. Jeebus.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Werner must have found this under some rug someplace. Encrypt everything apart from Elasticache.
AWS IAM now supports WebAuthn and Safari browser for multi-factor authentication with security keys.
So you can now use your iPhone to log into the console. That is a fantastic mobile experience just waiting to happen. Woo!
Maybe this is the future of the mobile app going away, and so they can actually make a good mobile experience natively instead. I was just trying to find the IT guy who's using AWS with Safari. I want to know who that schmuck is. Why? You have Firefox and you have Chrome. Like, why would you choose Safari?
Because it's default on all my Apple products, and I refuse to change anything.
Why do Apple choose Safari? Is that
I don't know.
What? I mean,
anymore, I have no idea. I know why they did back forever ago. Now I guess they just
because they want to have a native browser experience for the Mac. So they. But the reality is all the other browsers are just using their technology anyways because they built the Gecko stuff, which now powers Chrome and Edge and all the other browsers. So, I mean, you really have to thank Apple for this fantastic web experience you're experiencing at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's way better than Internet Explorer, especially back then.
I still miss Netscape sometimes.
Opera.
Then I wake up and from that I'm like, oh yeah, Opera. Come on.
The only people that I've ever seen use Opera in seriousness were doing it for the story of it. Like, like trying to be cool.
I used it on a mobile device years ago because they were the first browser that had a native compression service, so you could use one of their proxies, and then
that would
reduce your data use on. And they'd scale down images in the cloud and then just ship you the small copy instead of the big copy. So
that's kind of cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
all right. Fine.
But that was 15 years ago, so or longer.
Yeah, I was on his Nokia flip phone that he couldn't had paid by the kilobyte, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other browser I hear sometimes is Brave. I don't know who uses that one either.
Yeah.
But, apparently people do. So, all right. Well, things are coming up here in the cloud once again. Sustainability Summit for Google Cloud on June 28th. Is right around the corner, so do sign up for that before it's too late. The DevOps Enterprise Summit is over, but US is coming very quickly as well, so keep that in mind. RSA conference is next week when the show drops. It'll be the middle of RSA. We'll see what magic comes out of that. And then Amazon Remars is coming June 21st to 24th for all your Terminator needs. And AWS Reinforce is June 28th through 29th, now moved to Boston. Can't wait to hear what comes out of Reinforce this year. We will not do prediction shows again because last time they announced nothing, and we're going to go with nothing once again. And we'll just talk about it here on the show after the fact. So those are coming up. The other things in the show notes coming up as well. Check those out in your free time. Thanks a lot. Have a great week here in the cloud.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.
And that is the Week in Cloud. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Foghorn Consulting. Subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and tweet us your feedback at #TheCloudPod. Or join our Slack channel. Go to our website, thecloudpod.net, for sign-up instructions.